Hello, YouTubies, YouTubies. You've likely clicked on this video because you want to see an owner's review of a Porsche 986 Boxster. Either that or you're one of my very supportive friends and family. And hello, Mum. We're going to go through the good, the bad, the ugly, owning it, costs, things like that. So stick around for that and enjoy. So this is the car. We're not going to be talking about any of the mods or anything, the changes I've done to it. You'll have to excuse the cat making noise in the background. She has been locked in here because she's been fighting. This is the Porsche 986. It's a 0.2 technically because it is the facelift model. It's a 2003 2.7. They are available in the Boxster S, which is a 3.2 in this year and a few before. It comes with a like bigger engine, as you might expect. There's an extra radiator up the front for cooling, possibly for the air conditioning, bigger brakes, things like that. And there's a 2.5 version, which ran from, I think, about 1997 up to about 2000, if you want something even smaller and a little bit older. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about when I got the car. I got it when there's about 60,000 miles on it. I had a budget of just under 10k in the UK. Wanted something that was fun, preferably a coupe, something that was good looking. Your typical options that you're going to see for that are like a TT, a Z3 or a Z4, a Mazda MX-5, things like that. This is not the fastest of any of those cars, but I can tell you after driving it, it is definitely at least one of the most fun, and that was what sold it for me in the end. The car cost me about £8.5 when I got it, and this was going back about 6 or 7 years now. I've had one of these for 10 years. That's how much I like them. This is actually my second one. But just give you a quick breakdown on what you're looking at running costs for a 2.7. It's about £360 a year for the road tax. This one's ULEZ free for some reason. I'm not sure all of them are, it seems, in some of the online groups and things, which is very strange. And you're looking at about, I pay about 450 a year for the insurance. Now, the thing is, it's going to surprise you. I do 500-mile round trips in this car semi-regularly, at least sort of like once a month, and it averages 42 miles per gallon, which most people will find astonishing. I will be honest, I used to do a little bit more before I put the spoiler on, but that's not going to surprise anybody. So, what do you get? You different options with these cars. They come in a 2.7, 3.2 litre if you're looking at a post 2002, and a 2.5 prior. 3.2 litre versions are called the Boxster S. It comes with a few other goodies, upgraded larger brakes, things like that. You can get options manual, 5, 6-speed and Tiptronic, and you can get various different levels of trim for creature comforts like air conditioning, things like that. This option does not have air conditioning. Previous one did, and ultimately for living in the UK, if I get too hot, I just take down the roof. 2.7 litre has 230 horsepower out of the box, as they say, and the 3.2 has 260. Arguably most importantly, you get an engine right there in the middle at the bottom, and you get rear wheel drive, which totally builds into the idea of this car is that it's fun. Pretty much from this part onwards is the same as a 996, 911 of the similar years, and the rest of it at the back is ultimately what the Boxster is. So it's 2024 at the moment. One of these would probably, a good one of these, probably set you back 5-6 grand, probably easily do it for that. And what do you get for that? You get a 2.7 litre flat 6 engine right at the bottom middle of this car, which leads to one of the best attributes to it in its entirety. Balancing the car, the handling of it, we will come to that. They turned out about 200, the 2.7s would do about 230 horsepower when they came out of the factory. The 3.2s would do about 260 if you want something just that little bit faster. And again, bigger brakes and whatnot. You get 2 seats, you get a convertible roof on all of them. You can get hard tops for these. I used to have one, moved into a house with a garage, realised I never used it, and I get the top down. I'm one of those people, I'm afraid, that as soon as it gets over 15 degrees, the roof is down if it can be. You get a boot at the back that's pretty good, but you need to be aware it gets shallower towards the back end, and if you put anything too tall in there and then slam your boot shut, you will get dents on it. And you get, and this is my favourite bit for surprising people when they think the stuff I've bought in the shops is not going to fit in the car, a boot at the front, which, if I can open with one hand, both on gas struts, which is nice, your spare tyre and everything, and that big dark void I'm sending you down into, that's the front boot. That one's pretty good for a suitcase if you want to use it, and a little storage space for just, just in case pieces. It's worth noting, if you are going to buy one of these and you're not going to drive it very often, now this is definitely what I would consider a perfectly usable weekend daily, because you can use it as a weekend offender. I do use this as a daily when I'm required to do daily sort of driving and it's just myself. The battery lives under there. On the later models of these 986s, the hood release is, or the trunk release, the front one, is electric. If you let the battery die, you have to go in under the wheel well, find a wire to emergency release this to then get in and charge it. I will show you in a next video when I talk about some of the modifications that I've made, how you would be able to put a charger into the inside of it if you want to be able to like trickle charge it or jump it. There is a clever little way you can jump it with a jumper pack to open this by using a terminal in the fuse box, and I'll show you when we go into the interior. Plenty of storage space, not the most, but it is a two-seater sports car. You're not expecting to be hauling around tons and tons of equipment or anything too large. I'm not a golfer. I'm not convinced you could get golf clubs in it. If that's going to mar part of your decision, don't buy this car if you're a golfer, potentially. Now, just coming to the interior of the car, one thing that's worth pointing out immediately, from the factory, the 2000, the 0.2 facelift models, so sort of late 2002 to 2004 on these, have a fibre optic MOS system for the stereo. That means you can't just change out the head unit if you want to. You need to get an adapter for it to be able to speak to the fibre optic parts that then, I believe, speak to the amplifier. You may choose to pull the whole lot out and completely remove it, or do what I did, and I'll cover in a later video, an adapter so you can put like any head unit you want to bring it up to the modern age, because it will probably only have CD and radio. With it being 2024, I don't really want to be carrying around all my CDs anymore. So you get two seats. It's a nice interior. I haven't ever seen one that isn't leather. It's nice and quiet in here, typically, unless you go for the loud exhaust, and we'll show you that. And you have got a super advantage compared to like a normal sized car. It does not take very long to clean it in here, and it also in the winter doesn't take very long to warm up, which is nice. I'll just show you down here in the fuse box what I was talking about. You pop this cover off here. There is this red terminal which you can pull out. Hopefully we can see that. That's not very bright. I just wanted to get some better light on this. This is how you jump start or pop the electric bonnet, trunk release, whatever you want to call it, in a facelift. So 986.2 if your battery dies. Pull off the fuse cover here. That's a finger, no tools required. And you pull out this terminal. So it sits in here. You pull it forwards. Now on here, this sits next to the spoiler release button, which you might know where that is by now. On here is an a metal terminal that you would connect the red part of a jumper pack to, or another battery. A charger will not provide it enough charge. It needs to be a jumper or another battery. Connect your negative terminal. I always do it here on the occasions I've needed to do it. Go to jump it. You pull this little switch here, this little electric switch, which the earlier models is a cable release, so you don't have this problem. Pull this switch here, bonnet will pop, and you can access your dead battery. Ask me how I know. So why should you buy this car? As I mentioned before, the options I was looking at before I bought this were things like the Audi TT, BMW Z4, which were both faster in a straight line than these, maybe a Mazda MX-5. Definitely good fun, had a couple of good days, good fun drifting those around, good fun little cars, much more aftermarket support, arguably more affordable as well. But for me, it was the fun of this car, the fun of what it is and what it's built for. I genuinely believe for the money, there isn't a better driver's car that you can have. Sport myself, I don't think I would ever want my car to have the engine in the front of it again. It's always going to have to be in the middle for me. The balance of it allows you to throw it round corners. I live out in Kent,
We've got quite a lot of open and some windy roads. This car's perfect for it, eats them up. And you can have all of that fun legally as well. You don't ever need to be speeding to enjoy this car. Genuinely believe there isn't a better driver's car for the money than the Porsche Boxster. Um, it's got enough power, you can get into any gap you want. You can feel like you're going fast. It's probably the perfect balance for driving a slow car fast, which is always fun, but also being just ever so slightly a fast car. On the speak of the aftermarket, as you've seen walking around mine, there is some aftermarket support. I found this to be a lot more economical than I expected it to be, and I never bought it to be an economical car. 42 mpg. The possible downside of that is you do need to use the premium fuel, the most premium you can get. I appreciate different areas and different countries, you can't all get the same fuel. From what I gather, maybe a lot of the petrol in America or gas in America isn't quite as good. You want to use the highest octane stuff. So we have E10 and E5 over here. I only put the E5 in, highest octane number, preferably the 99. Get the best performance out of it and you look after it. The other thing that's incredibly economical about this was built at the time that the Volkswagen Audi group had taken over Porsche. So this car for this year shares a lot of its parts with things like the Volkswagen Golf, Beetle, Audi A3. No surprise there. So some of the common things that go wrong with them, or one of them as an example, is the headlight switch. It loses some pieces in the barrels, no longer works. You can't turn your headlights on. A little bit dearer to buy from Porsche. I think it's somewhere in the 60, £70 range. You can buy exactly the same part from Volkswagen for about 14 quid new. So there's that element of it as well. It absolutely grips in a corner. You get it set up nicely as well. You can really enjoy it. It's got staggered fitment on the wheels. They're wider at the back than they are at the front. Knows where it wants to grip. It's rear wheel drive. Excellent fun. You're not really going to get yourself in trouble. You'd need to be a fair bit of a div. I say that carefully because I did crash one to run out of talent to be able to drive one of these and enjoy it. Really can't fault it for that. You want to talk about the expensive part of owning one of these cars. If you don't look after it, you will obviously need to pay for things like a new engine eventually, for example. The other side of that is the maintenance. Now, I do the majority of the maintenance on this myself, which naturally saves me a fair bit. It's quite an easy car to work on if you're even slightly mechanically inclined. Yes, there's some things very different from if it's your first time going for like a mid-engine car. You want to change the spark plugs in sort of a regular car where the engine's at the front. You open the bonnet, you pull out your ignition coils, you pull out your spark plugs. In this, you have to lift it up, take off the back wheels. You've got 3 on each side. It's a little bit strange sometimes. Recently had to do the alternator in it again. It's not just under the bonnet. There is a little bit. This is one of the cons, I would say, but it's a worthwhile compromise. There's a fair amount of stuff you need to move out of the way before you can access sort of the top or the front of the engine. However, all comes with the territory. Thankfully, I've not needed to be in there too many times. The most expensive part of owning a car like this is that you need another car more often than not. So I have a son, I have a missus. We need a family car that children we can take him in, that we can use for family shopping, all of that sort of stuff. So we do have a Nissan Qashqai as well, which was more expensive than this car was. So bear that in mind. It won't last forever if it's going to be your only car and you want to do things like have a family. It's a sports car. The storage is not fantastic. It's big enough for maybe a suitcase or two if they're moderately sized and not enormous. You can get a fair amount of shopping in it. You're not going to fit anything super large in it, but you're not going to be expecting that in such a small car. The other thing I think it's worth mentioning is if you're particularly tall. I've had some tall friends in this, and I've got friends and people in like online communities who own these cars who are the taller people. They do not fit very nicely all the time. There's a modification you can do, which I will include in the next video. I want to talk about the modifications to give yourself more leg room. I've had friends who are sort of 6'1", 6'2" in here. They're okay for an hour or so, and then they need to get out and stretch their legs because it's probably not built for a particularly tall person. I'm about 5'8". I fit perfectly in this car, both in terms of height and width. I honestly think this thing was built for me. And some people may get tired driving it, particularly on the manual, because the clutch is a bit heavier. It's a sports car. It's not as soft as you would expect with sort of your regular kind of commuter cars. I've had a lot of things like Audi A3s, very soft clutch, very easy to drive, very casual. This is the opposite, but you want that. This car gives you real feedback when you're driving. It enables you to feel the road, be part of the experience. I know it's a cliche things that people say when they drive Porsches and things like that, but genuinely, it's smiles per miles. There is not a journey you do in these cars without having a smile on your face. You enjoy every single one of them.
So if you're looking for a sports car for under 7 or 8 grand in the UK, Porsche 986 would be a very good bet. Go and test drive one. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Bear in mind they are built to be driven. The advice for looking after the engines, make sure the oil is getting around is when they're up to temperature. Drive them like you stole them. If you're considering one, go and test drive it. I promise you'll pick it. I hope this video was helpful. I'm Grant. This is my garage. If you like the video, you want to see more, we're going to have, the next video will be about the mods that you can do to these, what I've done, working through some of the common problems, working through little DIY jobs you can do to make the car more 2024 than 2004. Please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting, all of that sort of good stuff. Hopefully be getting a project car pretty soon as well, to be having something doing with that, something fun, something interesting. Thanks very much for watching.